Hey guys, I'm Combat Craig, and today I'm talking about frequently asked questions about compensation and pension exams for mental health claims. We're going to be covering what is it, how do I prepare for it, what should I bring to it, what should I be looking out for, and then we're also going to talk about some mental health DBQ key concepts. So let's hop into the screen share and start the training. All right, so what is a compensation and pension exam? After you file your VA claim, the VA will receive it, and then a veteran service representative is going to review it. They're going to look through there and look for your medical evidence. They're going to look for your service medical records. They're going to look for your VA medical records or any private medical records that you may have submitted. The veteran service representative will most likely request a VA contractor to examine you for the things that you're claiming. This could also happen at the VA, but it's more common to have these done by private contractors. Some of the companies are VES, LHI, and QTC. And the examiner that you're going to see is usually a physician, a registered nurse practitioner, or a PA, physician's assistant. So after you file your claim, you should be prepared for a CNP exam. Couple weeks after, usually on average, is where you'll get a call from one of these private contractors. And they're going to set a date for you and ask for your availability. And they're going to set a time and a place to go get your compensation and pension exam. How in depth is the compensation and pension exam? So, one thing you should know is the examiner will not treat you, they're not your treating doctor. He may order lab work or x rays and stuff like that. But their whole purpose is to evaluate you, and they'll tell you that up front. This is not your treating doctor. They're not going to make you better. The VA rater orders this exam, and depending on what they order, that's what the doctor's going to check you for. So they might just check you for a few things, or they might have you do a thorough exam. You're not going to know which one they're going after. You're just going to know the time and date that you're going to show up. Frequently, the examiner will not have your medical records or any other history. It's one of the reasons why we recommend bringing your DBQ with you into the CNP exam. Offer it to your doctor, the DBQ. He may or may not accept it. If he accepts it, great. If not, don't push it on him. The VSR is most likely looking for, how severe your mental health claim and your symptoms are at the time you filed your claim. So in that instance, the examiner won't consider all of your medical history and treatments over time. If like you're filing for an increase and you're going from 50 to 70 or 100 or something like that, they're worried about current symptoms right now. So they're going to send you in, probably won't be looking at your medical records much, if at all, and he's just going to evaluate your symptoms right now. So he can report back to the rater and they can give you the right rating. In other cases, the VSR may request a thorough medical review and they're going to go look through all your medical records. And this usually happens when you're establishing direct service connection. Let's say you're in an orthopedic exam or something like that, and they're looking all the way back through your service medical records till now, and it's been 20 years or something like that. So they're going to look through all the notes. So this is going to be different than an increase. What the VA rater is going to ask the examiner to do is ask for an opinion as to whether your condition today that you suffer from is likely or not to have resulted from your active duty service. He may report that it happened way after you got out. So this is why it's important to provide your own diagnosis, DBQ, and Nexus letter, and the Nexus connects your current symptoms with your active duty service. The CNP examiner is going to do the same thing. They're going to fill out a DBQ as well, and they're going to do their own evaluation on you. Again, try to present your DBQ, and if they take it, it might just make their day. Perfect. Hey, the VA didn't provide me with this. This looks great. Or they may not, or they may have been told not to consider whatever you submit to them. All right, so should I bring my file to the compensation and pension exam? A lot of vets ask about this. What should you bring and what should you not bring? And I have this picture in my mind of somebody that has like all these folders, 3-ring binders, like 10 of them, and they're hauling all this stuff in there on a hand truck. So it's important to know that the examiner does not make the decision on your claim. He's playing the role of the doctor and he's acting on behalf of the rater. The rater will look at the examiner's report along with any other medical evidence that you submitted. So as you prepare for your exam, you can bring in documents that you think are relevant. Relevant is key here. You don't want to bring stuff that's not relevant and it has nothing to do with your claim. The examiner might not want to take your DBQ, nexus letter, and diagnosis. Offer him the 6 pages, and he might not take it because he's already got it loaded up on his computer. It's fine. Don't get offended. Just move on about your business. You're there to do your job, which is to show up and show your current symptoms. The examiner's there to do his job, which is to evaluate you and verify the symptoms that you submitted your VA claim for. All right, so whether you should carry copies of the paperwork is debatable. You're only in there for a certain amount of minutes. There's veterans behind you, there's veterans before you. The doctor's been doing this for a while, some amount of months or years. So whatever, you got 15 minutes. If you're trying to offer him a 3-ring binder full of thousands of pages, you're not helping yourself, and he's not going to look at it. So just make sure you bring in just enough info. Diagnosis, DBQ, nexus letter. That's it. They only report on the degree of the disability at that moment. So don't have your best day means, what are you normally like? What have you been like over the past 2 weeks? You have to still that down into one day right now when he's looking at you. Be prepared for the unexpected. You're going to be stressed out and anxious, and your insomnia is going to be acting up because you're going in for a mental health evaluation. So that's normal. But be cooperative and be prepared to go with the flow. It's all up in the air. You have no idea what this guy's going to be like and how he's going to present himself to you. So you need to roll with it and get through it and tell your truth and get what you need to say out. At the end of the day, you want the examiner to write a report that agrees with your own conclusion about your condition, right? So if you're hostile towards them and you're complaining and you're saying the VA sucks, that's not going to help. Your goal is to get in there and have the DBQ you submitted and provided match up to this guy's. Don't do anything extra and be hostile and make it any worse than it needs to be. What if I'm asked to perform maneuvers that cause me pain during my compensation and pension exam? This is more for orthopedic C&P exams, but for a mental health one, it's going to be mental pain. If you have a military sexual trauma, it's very likely that he's going to ask you about it. So be prepared to talk about all of your symptoms and how they affect your social life and your work life. Nothing's out of bounds here. Make sure you hit the big points that are on your DBQ because you're trying to get him to agree with the DBQ you provided. If you hold back and you don't explain the full extent of your mental health symptoms, you run the risk of getting underrated, and that's not what we're trying to do here. Can I have a witness or support person like my spouse in the room with me during my compensation and pension exam? I would bring your spouse or significant other. Your examiner may or may not welcome your family or friends in, but bring them along. You do not have the right to be accompanied. It varies and it depends on the rater. Bring them. Again, don't argue. If they say, come on in, great, that'll help. If they say, no, thank you, then they can sit out in the lobby. One thing you could do is try arranging this beforehand with the VA regional office if you absolutely need the support. If you can't go in there without your spouse, you need to tell the VA or the contracted company that you need your spouse with you. They may still deny your request, and don't argue it. I know it sucks, but the goal here is to get through the exam. So you're going to have to do it alone. What should I watch for during the compensation and pension exam? As you're being examined, you want to pay attention to what they're doing. You may not agree with how they're doing it and how they're asking you questions and how they're typing notes and how they might be skipping things, but you need to take note of all that stuff, a mental note, so you can write notes about this after the exam. This is just a good practice to get into. You want to keep your memory refreshed and you want a memorandum for record. At the very least, it's good to have a memorandum for record because you're probably going to go out of there and go through your DBQ and know that you missed talking about something and you're going to wonder how important it is. And it's like, shit, I forgot to talk about suicidal ideation, or I forgot to talk about my suspiciousness or something like that. So do the best you can. You can have a copy of your own DBQ and you can read through it so you don't forget stuff. VA examiners are well aware if you have a mental health claim that memory loss is part of it. So they'll be cool if you bring in your notes. So the VA examiner must follow the VA created guidelines. These are set out on worksheets. So if you're sure the examiner didn't follow the guidelines and your claim's denied as a result, you'll want to raise the point that you had an inadequate exam and appeal the exam. And you want to do that immediately, like within a couple hours. So you have the exam, you feel things are going wrong. You don't need to be argumentative, but you need to be taking mental notes. Get out of the exam, memorandum for record, call 800-827-1000, tell them what happened, and then also follow up with something written in My Healthy Vet and request a new exam and tell them you had an inadequate exam and explain why you believe you had one. What if you don't want to go to the compensation and pension exam? VA may require a C&P exam at any time. I guarantee you're not going to want to go, especially if you're sitting at 70 or 100% or something, and you've been, doing that for a couple of years, and you're doing your treatment, and you're doing the best you can, and then boom, out of the blue, you get a C&P exam for reevaluation. The VA will insist on a C&P exam by one of their own doctors. You need to show up for this because your benefits are on the line. They could be terminated for failure to report to a VA exam. So you have to go to all of them. That's just the way it is. So when do I get to see the results of the compensation and pension exam? This is a weird question because if your exam was done on a private doctor, you don't get to see the results. You actually have to request the results. The best way to do this is by requesting your C file, that stands for claims file. If your C&P exam was done at the VA, your results will be uploaded into your My Healthy Vet account in about 30 days, and you can look at the notes there. Most likely, what we've seen is you're going to go to a C&P exam, and shortly after that, you're going to get your decision, and you're not going to be able to see the notes to see how you did. So don't sweat that. You'll be able to see how you did when you get your rating. All right, let's cover some mental health DBQ key concepts. So the VA raters are looking at the veteran's current symptoms and how those symptoms affect the veteran's occupational and social impairment. How much does this affect your work life and your social life? This is why you need to be prepared to talk about how it affects your work and social life, because this is what they're after. They're trying to match up symptoms to social and occupational impairment. So the average VA mental health rating for all veterans across all demographics is 70%. And that's occupational and social impairment with deficiencies in most areas. The term such as is used here, and this is not an exhaustive list. They're looking for things that resemble this or are exactly like that list. If we're talking about impaired judgment, impaired thinking, and mood disorders, if you don't have exactly one of these things, they're going to try to get you into something that's close to it. So it's not an exhaustive list. That's important for you to know. In fact, most VA raters don't even know this concept. So they just focus on the symptoms in CFR 38 Part 4 listed in the DBQ forms, and they don't even leave any wiggle room if you have this, but it doesn't necessarily exactly fit into this list. So most raters don't even know this. So it's important for you to do your C&P exam prep for your mental health claim. And it's important for you to familiarize yourself with CFR 38 Part 4 so you know what they're supposed to be doing and you have a basic understanding of the law. All right, you can read this part here, the general rating formula for mental health. It explains how your symptoms will match up with a percentage. And it talks about frequency, severity, and duration. Here's another one that VA raters don't really pay attention to that much. The reasonable doubt rule, also known as the benefit of the doubt doctrine. This means that the evidence provided by the claimant, you, the veteran, is at least as likely as not, which means there's a 50-50 chance that what you're claiming is a result of your military service. If there's a tie, the tie is supposed to go to the runner. The tie is supposed to go to the veteran This is why we have the appeals process with things like higher level reviews and supplemental claims. If there's a clear tie that you could see on paper, but the VA couldn't see it, then you file for a higher level review and you hope they can pick it up and see it. Eventually, as you go your way through the appeals process, the tie will go to the veteran. We're trying to get it to go to the veteran as soon as possible so you're not wasting time and stressing out more about your mental health claim. All right, so this about covers the CNP exam, frequently asked questions for mental health claims. Make sure you do CNP exam prep, know your DBQ, know your symptoms, know your stressors, know your story, and know it cold so you can just say it and you don't need to read it off of a DBQ. Your symptoms are supposed to be bothering you right now, so you shouldn't have to, have a refresher. If you're nervous and anxious and stuff like that, you could bring it along with you. But you should be able to know if you miss something in the exam, you should be able to catch it before the exam's over. You need to know it that well. Take it seriously. Do your CNP exam prep. If you need to appeal your VA claim, check out Hill and Ponton at hillandponton.com. See if they can help you out. Also, if you're at Camp Lejeune between 53 and 87, you may be eligible for additional benefits. Links for both of those are in the description. Don't forget to sign up for my boot camp if you want to learn more about my process, which is the VA claims process. You're going to need medical evidence to win your VA claim. If you're missing a diagnosis, severity of your symptoms, or a nexus, and your doctor won't do it for you, send an email to Second Strata and see if they can help you with your missing medical evidence.